people see the T-shirt and they say, "What do you guys do?" So we have to explain the context of this. And one of the first things that we have to explain is that when we talk about OpenSocial, there's at least three separate and important interrelated pieces. There's the API, there's reference code that supports the API, and then there's all the actual implementations, the containers and the applications. And this community in this room is representing all of those things, and we're working on all of those things. You're hearing presentations about all of those things, but I want to talk quickly about each of the three. So first is the API itself. So Evan got up here and walked you through, here's what 0.8 looks like. I'm curious, how many of you subscribe to the API Inspect discussion group for OpenSocial? Okay. That's, I don't know, there was a good couple dozen hands. How many of you read every message on there? Wow, okay. There's more than I expected. Actually, the hands I saw are all names I recognize from the list. My hand did not go up on the read every message. No way. There's a ton of activity there. There's no way that any one person can. But for anyone who's wondering what's going on with the API, or why is it the way it is, or I have a particular thing I want, that's where the decisions are happening, is on that discussion group. So everything that Evan summarized for you about 0.8, that was the folks who chose to spend time taking part in designing and saying, here's what should be in the API on that list. So, when we get to the 0.9, the one thing that just the shape of the room encourages is it encourages people to ask whoever's up here, so what's coming in 0.9? Evan said it, I'm going to say it again. Beats me, right? You guys are going to tell us what's in 0.9, right? It's like, you like PubSub, you want more? Great. Propose an enhancement. Have people yell at you about why your idea is wrong, politely, and then fix it, and then now 0.9 has a feature that's even better than PubSub, right? That's the way this process works. We've seen it work. There are I would have predicted about half of what's in 0.8 if you had asked me based on the last one of these and just buzz. About half of it is exactly what we expected. Half isn't. Yeah.
Driving towards that as candidates coming in, if you're outside of that vision that you can sort of explain it, or maybe change the vision, but certainly have a path.
Yeah. So the question is anarchy, right?
Yeah.
to oversimplify, it's like, hey, how does this work?
Well, the question is there a God, and if so, who voted you in?
Is there a God, and if so, who voted you in? Well, if there's a God, he doesn't have a microphone, I know that.
Yeah. I think people are used to one company and one group having a structure. This is a partnership across major containers. The whole concept of OpenSocial is supporting data from one context to another, solving a standard that goes across contexts, where each of these contexts have their own view and vision. So the idea is to enable that openness. So what the openness is letting people support different features within the basic context of social apps. The one thing Google is offering is things like access to all the APIs involved in mail and calendaring and all that other stuff. The other ones, the other containers want to make. But it's really not about, this is our vision, and we're just going to have you develop our vision, and this is what you have to do. It's not that model. It's a model of enabling more and allowing you to see where the actual richness comes across these concepts. All concept of open and social.
So I should say that although I'm a big supporter of this model, I'm also a huge skeptic of the model that I'm promoting. I am both, okay? So I understand the hesitation, right? We talked a lot in the early days about this, and to use the political analogy, I'm not going to try to play out the religious one, I'll get in trouble, but I can play out the political one with a little less trouble. The best form of government is a benevolent dictatorship, if you trust the dictator to stay benevolent, right? And in general, you don't. I don't. So, yeah. So so there's a balance. There's a balance here between the shared goal and whatever the, and leadership and vision leadership, which I think is very important and is very useful to have the people who feel strongest about this exhibit some vision leadership. And there are people who happen to get paychecks from Google who are among that list. There's a lot of other people who don't, or who are among that vision leadership list. But it's important that there are a few people who care enough about keeping this moving in a clean, forward way. It's important that we have some kind of structure to keep it from turning into chaos. That's what this is. But if you look at the way that many of the big standards on the web evolved, many of them were not one company saying, this is what's next, and this is what's next. There certainly are standards that work that way. There are others that didn't. The model, this is, I think it's the IETF that did that first. But the IETF has this great model for how to do this kind of stuff. And they say it's rough consensus and running code. And that's the criteria. Is it, it dates back to DARPA? Makes sense in the wood. Yeah.
I was just trying to point out that trying to set standards in the room helps, but it also creates a design meeting where things never move forward.
Yes.
So that's what I was trying to point out. And it's not necessarily having multi-clear, but certainly, in a sense, instead of asking what should be done, is to have a vision that's proposed maybe to a few different companies and then discuss it.
I understand. Yeah. So your concern was mostly paralysis.
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly.
Which. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. That we could fall off that cliff, and we're you know, the biggest comfort I can share is I'm scared of that also. Right, and so we're watching that and we're doing what we can. I was very happy to see the 0.8 process work. It worked largely because there were a few very committed people who were focused on closure, right? And although we didn't use the jargon, you had the equivalent of a working group that sort of nominated themselves a working group by participating a lot. And Cassie Dahl, who's in Switzerland right now, but you know that didn't slow down her participation. It was a very global thing. Sort of ended up being the chairperson of that working group just because she took on the active role, and that's what led to what was. How many people have seen Cassie's spreadsheet that she was tracking the 0.8 discussions in? Yeah, so roughly the same couple dozen hands that saw it. This was a spreadsheet where she took the chaos and committee messiness and said, all right, here it is. And when it was time to shut up, tell people to shut up and say yes or no, she sent out an email saying, we're done. And 95% of the time that she said this conversation is over, people agreed and we moved on.
But
Yeah.
I got to add something to this, though, because you were involved with the OpenSocial action at the beginning. See, if you have a situation where one company kind of does that, that's not what's happening. It's got us really fast, really richer experiences. We've got eventually got the Orchid, Hackathon guys here, I5 and others. We can get stuff built really fast. We got the Flex API done in 2 hours. Got it approved because I keep the API over there. We were to fix it the next hackathon, an actual problem with data that was a major security issue, which fed back to the other containers. MySpace guys added some real good value with their dev jam. So it's more of a thing where it's really a mental, conceptual break. You've got richer experiences where containers can go as far as more. Companies who are working on code inside the container can go as